Justin. I'm the second person of the Sports Animals. Sitting here with David. We're kind of doing solos this week, but he may kind of come in here and there. I'd like to start off with the NFL. I'm not a Patriots fan. As a matter of fact, I hate the Patriots like I hate the New York Yankees. But I am glad to see that number one they cut Aaron Hernandez. They needed to do that, and I'm also glad, and this shows to me a lot of class, that they're going to refund the jerseys for Aaron Hernandez for another one. I'm very glad that they're doing that. And the NBA, of course, we had the draft this past week, and there was some surprises. Noel went all the way to sixth. I wasn't expecting to see that coming. And also, there was a big trade between the Celtics and the Nets.
Yeah, Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett went to the Nets, and so pretty much that helped. Probably helped the Nets out a little bit for going. I'd say probably be the third best team out of the East, and I don't think it's going to do any more than that. But it's going to be interesting. I think to also to see how Jason Kidd does as a coach for the Nets. Can he be able to establish a good relationship with Darren Williams, their point guard, and since he's probably ultimately going to be a Hall of Fame point guard, he ought to be able to kind of be like a mentor toward Darren Williams, and then how's that going to play as far as him being a successful head coach or not? We'll have to wait and see on that. But I don't think Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. Only thing they're going to add, I believe, is Kevin Garnett's going to add leadership to the team.
I think the Nets are going to be the team to watch next year. The Heat, to most, will still be the favorites, and there's a good chance they could still win it if everybody comes back. If Dwayne Wade stays healthy, of course, he's become too injury prone, so that's going to be a concern for them going forward. But the Nets are going to be probably the number 2 team. The Bulls, I think, will be number 3 with Derrick Rose coming back. I assume he's coming back. I mean, he's chickened out this year. He could have came back this year, and he just chose not to. He just chose to be a big wimp.
Well, remember the Pacers, the Indiana Pacers. I think are going to have a great shot of being the best team in the East, maybe the best team in the East. Maybe be the team to dethrone to the Heat.
That's one I forgot about. That could be very well a sleeper pick. The East, I think, is going to be loaded. In years past, it's been the West that's been the dominant conference. That may not be the case next year. It may be the East. LA's pretty much a joke. Now you do have some good teams. You have the Clippers. They're going to be good again. Matter of fact, they're probably going to be stronger. They've got a better coach, Doc Rivers, and Chris Paul's. Assuming he comes back, which most people, including myself, think he's going to. Dwight Howard's going to, most people think, Dallas or Houston. L.A., the Lakers are going to try to get him. Why, I don't know, because he doesn't fit in. He doesn't fit into the D'Antoni system at all. He doesn't fit in well with Kobe Bryant. He's one of those, he has to be, the man, if you will. To me, he needs to go somewhere like Toronto and be the man. Mm-hmm. Because to me, he's overrated. And he'll do okay in Dallas. He'll do okay if he goes to Houston. But he's looking probably 7th or 8th playoff spot, if that, at best. I don't think he's going to get out of the first round next year.
Well, I think that as far as the Lakers go, it really depends on what role Phil Jackson's going to have. They say right now consultant. But what does that really mean? Does that mean that's what he's going to do? Or is that really going to set up toward kind of position like Pat Riley has with the Heat, and he's going to run the team. If he wants to run the team, then we know that he has a vision of what the Lakers should be, and that's winning championships. So even with Mike D'Antoni as a coach, which we don't believe in, and we never have thought he was a good coach, maybe Phil Jackson can work his magic as an executive and get the Lakers where they need to be, and that's get draft picks, get younger.
That's a very good point, David. I think the Lakers will be good again at some point, but the problem is Kobe Bryant says he's only going to play 2 more years. If that's true, right now they're a total disaster. They're
Well,
going to have to tear up and rebuild, and I believe Phil Jackson can do it. I believe they'll be good in a couple of years, and it really doesn't matter if Phil Jackson is a coach or he's an executive. I think they're going to be good in a couple of years, but it's gonna take that long because there's such a mess there right now. It's not going to be Phil Jackson's fault. It's not going to be Kobe's fault, and I hate the Lakers, but honestly, Kobe deserves better. He's 2 years from retiring. The Lakers need to be in a position to win now,
well,
and they're in a position to rebuild.
the thing is, first of all, Kobe has to come back healthy from his torn Achilles. That's number one. If he's able to come back the same Kobe Bryant he's always been, then we really don't know how long he's going to play because he's always changing his mind all the time. Yeah, he had Reggie said 2 years, but he just came out just like in the last couple of days and made a statement that saying that he could see himself playing 3 or 4 more years. I personally don't think that will be the case, and I don't think he can play at a high level for 3 or 4 more years. I think maybe 2 to 3, but so we have to kind of really wait and see where his head is really at, and after say 2 years.
A lot of it's that Kobe's only 34, 35, but because he broke into the league at such a young age, really physically, he's been through a lot, playoffs every year. It's like he's a lot older than that. He came in like at 17 or 18, whereas high school and college you play maybe 20 or 30 games a year. In the NBA you play 81. If you play playoffs all the way to the finals, that's like 100 games a year. I think including preseason, the Heat played like 113 games this past season.
Well, if anybody can play enough 3 or 4 more years, he probably is Kobe because he takes care of himself
I totally agree.
so good. His workout regimen is, they say, the best in the NBA. I mean, he's been known to ride his bike for like miles, and so he has that mindset of train, and so it's I wouldn't bet against him.
A lot of it though is just does he want to? If anybody can, I agree. I think Kobe can. I think he'll come back from his Achilles with no problems.
Well, I think that what is really motivating him more than anything else is to try to tie Michael with that sixth championship. I think that's what he wants more than anything. Is it going to be known as the other guy that had 6 championships right along with Jordan, and he wants to be in that discussion as being possibly the best player who ever played the game. Now that's up for discussion. We could talk about that another time. But I think that's where he is right at this point in time, and he thinks that he probably should be in that discussion along with Jordan. But he's going to have to get that 6th title, but at least for people to talk about that.
Now, this could be a very interesting subplot. The who's the greatest in NBA history? I think the greatest I've ever seen is Michael Jordan. I think David would disagree and would say Kobe. I know he's a big Kobe fan. To me, though, Kobe's no slouch, though. Don't get me wrong. But the first few years, he had Shaq, and he was kind of like the Scottie Pippen. Now I give him that though. He's become the man, and that's one thing Scottie Pippen, even though he's a Hall of Famer, that's one thing he could never do. It was even the 2 years he was the man without Jordan. They didn't win the NBA Finals, and after he left the Bulls, he didn't win the NBA Finals. But just because you win a whole lot of championships doesn't mean you're great. Now, in this case, of course, we're talking about superstars, and they're great. For instance, Steve Kerr won more NBA championships than Michael Jordan. He won some with the Spurs after he left. Do we talk about Steve Kerr as the greatest player in NBA history? I've never heard it. I've never said it. He's a bench guy.
Yeah. But I think that Kobe, I think it's not. You can't really say he was a Scottie Pippen next to Shaq because I mean to me they pretty much shared uh, the responsibility of carrying them to the titles that they won. I mean I think if you didn't have one, uh, then they don't win those championships. Uh, so I think Kobe and Shaq basically shared the responsibility of helping the Lakers get to where they were able to get to win those championships. And I mean,
Same,
yeah,
same thing with the Bulls. Jordan never won an NBA Finals until they got Scottie Pippen. So it takes two superstars, two top players in the NBA to win.
and then the other thing was totally differentiating him from Scottie is because Kobe won two more championships, one Shaq left. So he proved that he still could be able to carry a team and win, and along with Pau Gasol, might I add, because that was a big deal when Pau Gasol got traded to the Lakers, and he was I'd say Pau Gasol is more than Scottie Pippen. But still, Kobe was able to lead that team to two more championships. Whereas Scottie, when he left the Bulls, he may have been a little older, he still was not able to carry to Portland, and he was a shell player once his Chicago days were over with.
But remember when Jordan retired those 2 years to go play baseball? He got them into the playoffs, but if memory serves me correct, they didn't go to the finals either year.
No, they didn't. But to me, Scottie Pippen is a Hall of Famer, but he's kind of in the upper echelon, so maybe 40, 50 something greatest player of all time or something like that. I mean, right now, Kobe Bryant probably is at least, you can make an argument, he's at least top 5, top 10.
I agree. Kobe's a lot better than Scottie Pippen. I do agree. Now, I don't think he's as good as Jordan, but I don't think there's very few. There's none in this era that's as good as Jordan. There may be if you go back to Bill Russell and some of those, but the way it is now, to me, the NBA is not the same since Michael Jordan left. Now, David probably disagree with me. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I do kind of disagree with that. I think that Kobe started bringing the NBA back, and then LeBron has pretty much taken it to another level. I mean, the ratings are doing fine. The Game 7 NBA Finals game, the ratings were some of the best that it's been in years. So I think you still have great basketball, and you still have that same excitement. It might not be, as good, but I think it's close.
But I also think Michael Jordan was one of a kind.
That's right.
It's not that the others are that bad. It's that he was just that good. I don't know anybody else who have scored 63 points when they had the flu. Don't get me wrong, Kobe's an outstanding player. He's the best player right now. Some will say LeBron James is the best player. But he's got 2 or 3 people. I mean, he didn't win an NBA Finals in Cleveland. And he almost choked this year. He choked his first year in Miami. Now, some people blame it on being getting adjusted. But he had the whole year to get adjusted. Well, I don't remember what the regular season record was, but if I remember right, it was pretty good. Anyone remember Game 5 of the NBA Finals against Dallas? It was like LeBron didn't show up. Had the same thing in Game 3 this year. LeBron didn't show up. Dwayne Wade didn't show up except for, I think, Game 4 of the Finals. Of course, he's blaming it on his knee, and that may be part of the reason, you might see the Big 3 break up. I think they'll be okay if they get rid of him. If they get rid of anybody else, they're not going to win it. I've heard a lot of people say that they're not going to win it next year.
Well, I just want to say just one brief thing, and go get back to where you're at. Now, as far as the Kobe and Jordan comparisons, Kobe to me, as far as the two, is definitely a better overall shooter because Michael was not that good of a 3-point shooter. Kobe was a lot better shooter, and I think a better passer. That's just me. Jordan, I give the edge of Jordan on the defense, but that's just all me talking on this part.
And part of the problem this year, the Lakers couldn't play defense. Now, I don't blame that on Kobe at all. He could play, to me, he could play defense just fine when Phil Jackson was there. The problem is Mike D'Antoni is not a defensive coach. Kobe Bryant and Mike D'Antoni is kind of like oil and water. Same thing with Dwight Howard. They just don't mix.
Well, yeah. But I'm wondering about your topic on as far as the LeBron thing goes and the finals. Nobody's going to remember that game 3. What they're going to remember is the game 7 and what happened with the LeBron in game 7. In game 7, LeBron pretty much won that game. I mean, he got 37 points, and so he showed out when it mattered the most.
However, he almost, of course, almost doesn't count. He almost didn't have that opportunity because of Game 6. The Spurs pretty much let Game 6 get away. And it wasn't, to me, it wasn't LeBron that brought him back. It was Ray Allen that brought him back. And it was Chris Bosh that brought him back.
Well, I mean, yeah, Bosh he did get that big rebound. He got that block shot. But it's just, it's the role players, or I should say, starters. Chris Bosh, the starter, is not going to get the attention of like LeBron did, because LeBron is the man on the team. It's kind of like in NFL football, the offensive lineman is not going to get the credit for making the blocks they do for, say, Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. Tom Brady and Peyton Manning is going to get the credit for winning the games, or if they are playing great in the playoffs, winning a Super Bowl, etc., etc. You never hear about how great the Patriots' offensive line is, which it is, maybe the best in football. You never did hear about how great the Colts' offensive line was when Peyton Manning was the quarterback there. It was great. So that's just the way it is. The star player is going to get all the attention. LeBron's going to get the attention. Of course, he won the Finals MVP again for a second year in a row. So that's he's going to be the guy everybody talks about. As far as the big 3 goes, I think they're going to bring him back. Pat Riley's already kind of stated that he's going to bring all 3 of them back. And I don't know if you saw it, but Ray Allen did exercise his option to come back too.
Ray Allen, I think, is going to be a very big fourth piece next year. Now, one thing the Lakers lacked that the Bulls had, of course, you had your main ones. You had Jordan number 1, Pippen number 2, but you also had your role players. Mainly Tony Kukoc, Luke Longley, Dennis Rodman, and that's one thing Phil Jackson could do. He can manage egos. He could manage Coach Dennis Rodman. There's not many people that can. I mean, that's why Allen Iverson never won an NBA title. Allen Iverson might have won had he been with Phil Jackson. Either that or Phil Jackson would have got rid of him. I don't know which. Because Phil Jackson would have put him in his place.
Well, I think if we go back to the Allen Iverson years, I mean, to me, the only reason that they were as great as they were is because Larry Brown was their head coach. And Larry Brown's one of the greatest coaches to ever coach the game.
That is true. He didn't. Allen Iverson, in fairness, when he had Larry Brown had nobody around him, he had to be the answer, the man every night. Although I don't know if you do, I still remember the practice speech where he said practice like 31 times. We're not talking about the game where I die and give up my life every night. We're talking about practice, not the game, but practice. Well, guess what? How you practice is how you play the game. What happened after the practice speech? His career went in the toilet.
Well, yeah, and it's sad to say, he's one of those guys that's made over $100-something million and probably living on the street right now.
Just like Vince Young, he's broke.
Right. And Antoine Walker, who made about $150 million, and he's broke too. But that just goes to show you that these athletes, in particular, a lot of black athletes, get all these millions of dollars, and they have no clue what to do with it.
Sadly, that's how it is. It's too bad. Hey, I would love to have more money. I think I could manage it well. I know David does too.
Oh, I know. If I had a few million, I'd be fine for the rest of my life. Hey, give me $100 million, and I couldn't spend that in 3 lifetimes.
It's going to be interesting to see Jay-Z now that he's representing all these baseball players and NBA players and football players possibly. Um, are they just going to throw good money away? Are they just going to spend money like a bunch of drunken sailors? What's going to happen? You would think he'd have more money than he knows what to do with, but we'll see. It's going to be very interesting. It's also going to be interesting to see how it does with regards to negotiations with teams. Is he going to be like a Drew Rosenhaus? Is he going to be like a Scott Boras? Or is he going to be kind of like a lesser agent? We'll find out in not spring training, but in the off season when Robinson Cano is a free agent. See how much he gets paid. He's going to get paid one way or the other. But is he going to get paid Scott Boras like, or is he going to get paid a little less?
Well, I mean, Jay-Z is definitely the exception as far as knowing how to invest his money. He's a smart businessman. I have no doubt. His hundreds of millions he'll now go spend that in his lifetime. He'll be fine. As far as the negotiation of players, I think that I think he's gonna get Robinson Cano a big contract. I mean, how much is it going to be? That remains to be seen. It's going to be 25 million or 30 million a year. I'm not sure about that. I think it's going to be close to that though. But from what I hear, there's a lot more players that are lining up to wanting to sign with Jay-Z. His newest client also was Kevin Durant, who just signed with him. But the reason I'm hearing a lot more players are going to try to sign with him is because they think they have this music talent, and he's going to just get them into the music business. Oh, we're all musical geniuses here, and Jay-Z is going to help us sell a bunch of records and make millions and more dollars. Well, no, that's not probably not going to be the case, but that's from what I hear, that's their thinking. Like Kevin Durant, for example, has a music studio in his house. And so I guess he thinks that Jay-Z's going to bring him promised land in music.
Interesting point. A lot of music people, probably from what I've heard, think they can be athletes. A lot of athletes think they can be musicians. It's going to be pretty interesting. I mean, too bad I can't sing. Don't stop me from trying, though.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I've done that myself, too. So, but I can't sing very well. It is a shame because there's money to be made in that field. Obviously, there's millions of dollars to be made in it. But I think that Jay-Z is going to be one to watch out for. Rock Nation, that's his name, and I think that he is going to be one of the most powerful agents in all sports, and he might surpass Scott Boras for it's all said and done.
Speaking of Scott Boras. We hadn't talked any baseball. All-Star break's coming up. Cubs are finally got smart and got rid of Marmol. It was about time. They're just going to have to eat that money, release him. Somebody else will sign him to a minor league deal. But he's probably going to go to a last-place team to me and stink. I think he's pretty well washed up. Some of it's pressure. He can't handle the pressure because he's getting booed every other pitch. But that's what happens when you can't throw strikes. Remember Mark Wohlers? Remember John Rocker? Now, granted, I like John Rocker. It's not necessarily because of his issues on certain things, as was mentioned in Sports Illustrated at that time, but I liked his pitching delivery. Problem was he couldn't ever throw it over the plate, and same thing has happened with some other pitchers over the days. But the All-Star break's coming up. It's going to be pretty interesting to see who's going to be a part of it. A lot of people think Max Scherzer, myself included, being 12-0, should start for the AL, but the problem is he's got a 3.10 ERA. That's not bad, but some people have there's several pitchers who have a lot lower ERA. He's 12-0, but he's getting very good run support. He doesn't even have the lowest ERA on the Tigers. Anibal Sanchez, who's on the 15-day DL right now, has a ERA of about half a run lower. Felix Hernandez has a lower ERA. The Japanese pitcher, Ikawama, I think is how you pronounce it, has a lower ERA. Who has the lowest, though, is on the disabled list. He won't be back till July.
Clay
Buchholz. He's out right now, but he's only like 10th or 11th. In the NL, I think it comes down to Matt Harvey. It's going to be a rookie, and I don't know if that's ever happened before. I know to me it hasn't happened in a long time. I think it's going to come down to Patrick Corbin for the Diamondbacks, but it's probably going to be Matt Harvey for the Mets, who's got the lowest ERA. I don't think the Mets are really worried about it. I think they're going to shut him down in September to control his innings. The same thing will happen in Arizona with Corbin. The only problem is Arizona may still be in the middle of a pennant race. Right now, though, they're only 6 games above 500. They're first in the West. I'm a big Braves fan, though. I think we're going to shut Tehran down when Beachy comes back. To me, Tehran's had an outstanding season. I enjoyed seeing the Tehran versus the former Brave Randall Delgado last night. Of course, Tehran was better. He struck out 10. Of course, it was 3-0. Craig Kimbrell got the save. Best closer in all of baseball, not named Mariano Rivera. It's going to be fun to watch us attempt to get to the World Series. My only concern about the Braves, number one, their offense is streaky. We strike out more than anybody, and we get shut out more than anybody. We've been shut out like 10 or I can't remember if it's 10 or 14 times this year, but it's been by far more than anybody in baseball. In a short series in the playoffs, run into an ace, and that could hurt us. So I'd like to see us add at least one role player, contact hitter that doesn't strike out that much. I think we need one bullpen arm. Some people think we could go after Kevin Gregg because we've lost Johnny Venters to Tommy John. We lost Eric O'Flaherty to Tommy John. We lost them 5 days apart to Tommy John. They'll be back next year. I think we'll re-sign O'Flaherty. He's done outstanding work for us. I'm not a big fan of Barbaro. He's done okay. Carpenter and Wood have done okay. But they need, to me, they need a little bit more time to develop. I don't see Wood pitching the 8th inning in September. Now, Johnny Venters did it and was okay. Although, to me, in another year or two, some people say Alex Wood's going to be a starting pitcher. To me, he's a late inning reliever because of the way his pitching delivery. Cubs, of course, are going to be sellers. The Cubs, as of last night, were half game ahead of the White Sox, believe it or not, though, for the best record in Chicago. I didn't see that coming. The White Sox this year are absolutely terrible. Of course, everybody's gotten better. Cleveland got better. KC got better. They got big game Shields. They're not in first place. They're probably not going to make the playoffs. They might not even finish over 500. But I don't think they're going to finish in last place. To me, the bottom's going to be Minnesota. I think they'll be sellers at the deadline. I like, well, sadly, Vance Worley. That didn't work out so well. He's in AAA right now. They're going to have a couple starters probably on the market. Cubs are going to be sellers. White Sox are going to be sellers. Do they trade Chris Sale? Probably not. But they could be selling. Trade deadline's a little over a month away. It's going to be pretty interesting. All-Star Game, of course, is coming up. I'm going to be interested in that. See who gets the World Series. Hopefully, I think the Braves will get there. To me, the AL is wide open, especially the AL East. Toronto's won 10 in a row. Of course, they've lost a couple games here lately, but they're still towards the bottom. But the AL East is wide open. Eventually, the Yankees are going to take. The injuries are starting to take its toll on them. The injuries are. A-Rod, to me, is a distraction. They need to just get rid of him. They're probably not going to do that, though, because they owe him too much money.
Well, yeah. Now they're stuck with A-Rod for 4 more years. What his contract is, $100 million, somewhere around that there. But so, to me, he's become the joke of pretty much everybody, all the talk show hosts that I can name. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's at the top of their list as far as the jokes go. But that's one of the stupidest contracts ever to be given out, and that's really, really, it's the Yankees' fault. They should never have given him the years that they gave him. But that's all about what were you doing for me right then, and that's all that mattered to him. And they won that World Series, and he had that great year that helped him win that World Series, and after that it's been downhill.
One of the biggest differences is, if I'm not mistaken, it's this way too in the NBA. In baseball, contracts are completely guaranteed. So you sign them 10 years and $250 million. You want to pay them 10 years and $250 million, whether they're with you at the end of it or not, unless they retire or die, from my understanding. In the NFL, they can cut you tomorrow and not have to pay the rest of the contract. Just what's owed. That's why you see the upfront money and bonuses and different things. I personally would like to see baseball go to that. It's going to be very interesting to see what the Yankees do at the deadline. I don't. Indications are they're probably not going to do much because they're worried about that luxury tax, and that could affect them trying to sign Cano this offseason. Because I believe it's 50% because they've been over it for so many years. But it goes back to the first year offender rate. I believe it's 14% if they get under it for 1 year. That's why they were so quiet this past winter in free agency. I think you're going to see that for 1 more year. And after that year has passed, I believe it's next season that happens. Then you're going to see them come out and spend a lot more money. You're going to see them spend probably like they did in the old days. Only problem is, historically, going after big free agents historically has not worked. It blew up in the Marlins' face last year. It's blowing up in the face of the Angels this year. The Yankees have won 1 World Series since 2000. Now, they've been to 2 World Series, I believe it is, 2 or 3, and lost.
Won 2001.
Of course, we remember that when Mariano blew Game 7.
Yeah.
And 2003, they lost in 6 games to the Marlins when Josh Beckett was with the Marlins, and they had some other young pieces. And that was the one Jack McKeon won.
That's when Cabrera.
I forgot about him, Cabrera. Of course, he's in Detroit now.
Yeah.
Triple Crown winner.
That's when he was a young kid back then.
The Marlins, of course, are a mess, and that may be another topic for another day.
Yeah. To me personally, I think that the 2 teams that we shouldn't just discount as far as playoffs and maybe in the World Series. And, I can't stand them. The St. Louis, you never can count them out, especially around toward the end of the season and then starting in the postseason. Well, I'm assuming they'll make the playoffs because they usually always make the playoffs, either wild card or win the division. I think it's going to be between them and the Reds, even though right now Pittsburgh is up by a game. But St. Louis has got that young. Who's their pitcher? The rookie.
Pittsburgh has that Cole, that young pitcher. Also, they went out, and a lot of people don't think this was a big deal. They signed catcher Russell Martin, who was with the Yankees and with the Dodgers, who is a veteran catcher. I don't think you're going to see the Pirates collapse like you did the past couple of years. Now, they may fall down a little bit. They may not make the playoffs, and they might. Yeah. I would not be surprised if 3 playoff spots come out of the Central. The AL or the NL West, I think you're going to have to win the division. The NL East, unless Washington gets really, really hot or Philly gets really, really hot, I don't see either of those happening, but they could. I don't think either one of them going to catch the Braves.
Shelby Miller is this kid for St. Louis. It's really finally got. It looks like he's gotten together. He's won 8 games so far for the year. His ERA is I think in 2s. So if he can keep it up all year long, along with the rest of the rotation, Lance Lynn is pitching good. Adam Wainwright, he's doing his thing. He's won 10 games. So with St. Louis' starting rotation, and then of course the offense that they have, I think that they're going to be there at the end, and I think it personally it's going to be between them and the Giants once again. Barring the Giants do make the playoffs, obviously they probably will have to win the division. Right now they're not playing great baseball. They're 3 or 4 games under 500 in 3rd place, but we know that they're the defending champions. They went 2 out of 3 years for a reason, and they're usually generally a second half team. So I think the Giants will make a run in the second half, win the division, make the playoffs. Some like St. Louis, maybe they don't win the division, but they get the wild card. Of course, your Braves looks like probably will win the division, make the playoffs. But the biggest question is with the Braves is, can they get it done when they get in the playoffs? And that's been a lot of their history. And besides that 1 year in 1995.
That's true. We've only won 1 World Series. Now, we won one in 1957 in Milwaukee. Of course, we've there's been I don't remember, I think the first World Series in the history of the Braves franchise was in 1914, the Boston Braves. Many people don't know, but the Braves are the oldest continuously running franchise in Major League Baseball, and I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud to be a Braves fan. Of course, the Cubs, the last one they won was 1908. I hate to rub that in, but it's the truth. We've won 3 since the last time you've won one.
Yeah.
Not one. We've just won 1 in Atlanta, but we've won 3 as a franchise since the last time you won the World Series.
Yeah, but we don't count Milwaukee. I'm sorry, but I'm just counting Atlanta.
I count Milwaukee, and I count the Boston
No,
Braves.
it doesn't.
1914, 1957. Of course, I wouldn't alive for either one of them. I'd be older than. Well, I won't go there.
Yeah, to consider the fact that you are 1 year older than I am, so I always be able to say that. You'll be 40.
I am getting older than the Hills. But
Yeah.
no offense to those that are older than me.
Hey, but I'm a proud Cub fan, and I'm proud to say that I have been my whole life.
The
So,
lovable losers.
Yeah, but
Bartman.
when we wind up becoming the lovable winners and actually do win a World Series, then how many people will actually come on the bandwagon and say, oh, we're all of a sudden Cub fans now.
Hey, no offense, when was the last time you got there? 1945, 1957 we won, and we won in 95, and we got there in 91, we got there in 92, 96, and 99.
Yeah, but
We've been there several times since the last time you got there.
But you lost all those World Series because you choked in all those years. So you should have won more than 2 World Series.
Hey, we might have choked, but we got there. You didn't get there. You choked before the playoffs. Y'all choked. Hey, what can I say?
That's fine because I trust that Theo Epstein, he knows what he's doing. He's already helped the Red Sox win their first World Series since
1918.
1918, and he helped them win a second World Series. So I think that along with him, and then it's not just him. Jed Hoyer is a good general manager who's put in place right now, and Jason McElroy, that's in charge of the scouting, knows what he's doing too. He's one of the best. So I'm trusting that Theo Epstein will bring a World Series in the next 3 to 4 years. I'm
thinking it's going to be like the next 10 years. It took the Braves, when Bobby Cox took over, I believe it was 1986, 87, something like that. He had a 5-year plan. It took 6 years. 91 was the 6th year. Maybe it was, he won the playoffs, or won the division for the Blue Jays, I believe it was in 85, and went to the Braves, if I remember right, the following year. And, of course, it was 4 more years when he won the World Series, so it took about 10 years.
Well, Epstein's, I think, plan is about 5 to 7 years. So he's expecting a World Series in the next 5. Well, this is his second year. So, yeah, somewhere in the next 5 years.
And the thing is, though, what the Braves did probably will never be done again. I don't think it's ever been done in sports, winning 14 consecutive division titles. Of course, we had 3 Hall of Famers in the same rotation for a decade. That may never happen again. Greg Maddux, of course, is a first-round Hall of Famer, 354 career wins. Tom Glavine won 305 games. He's a first-ballot Hall of Famer. John Smoltz is, even though he didn't win 300 games, is definitely, to me, without a doubt, a first-round Hall of Famer, because he's the only pitcher in Major League history, and not even Dennis Eckersley has done this, to have 100 or 200 or more career wins. I believe he had 213, and over 150 career saves. He had 154, and he was also dominant in the playoffs. He's the only person, if I'm not mistaken, that's won more postseason games is Andy Pettitte. And Pettitte probably will never get there to the Hall of Fame because of the steroid thing. Time will tell. I wouldn't be surprised if in 50 years from now, after all this is cleared, if they put some of them in. But he's not going in anytime soon. He's probably not going to get to 300 wins. He's pitching like he's old. He's injury prone the last 2 years he's been with the Yankees. Got an ERA over 4, losing record. Of course, now I'm getting back on the Yankees again, but be interesting to see what they do at the deadline. Cardinals, you brought up a minute ago. Um, their starting pitching is a lot of them been hurt, but they've done an outstanding job with the rookies. The only concern with the rookies is come August and September um, being on an innings limit. I would not be surprised, though, if the Cardinals are already thinking about this. I would not be surprised if they tried to go out and add one big-time starting pitcher, maybe a second, like a fourth or fifth starter, to take care of some of the innings. They probably need a bullpen arm, too. Mitchell Boggs has been a disaster this year.
I know. I actually know who they could add as a starting pitcher, and that'd be Matt Garza. And we take 2 or 3 of their prospects from him.
I don't see that happening. Of course, the Cubs and Cards are big-time rivals. I'd about be willing to bet a steak dinner that's not going to happen. Of course, I'm already down a bunch of bets to you. But
Yeah, hey, that was just me being sarcastic. Of course, that's not going to happen.
it'd be something if it did.
The Cardinals aren't fools.
We know. The Cubs are, but that's...
No, we used to be. Now we're not, because now we actually make smart deals. Besides the Edwin Jackson stupid deal that Theo made with him, giving him $13 million a year for next
Gave Mark Burley money.
Yeah.
He don't pitch nothing like Mark Burley.
for the next 3 years, and he's 3-10 so far this year. He's going to lose 15 games.
He's got an ERA of like 5.80 last time I looked a couple days ago. To me, though, and maybe it's because I don't know why they don't do it. Once they trade Kevin Gregg, they might. I think he'll get traded at the deadline. They need to just put Edwin Jackson, try him in the 9th inning. See what happens. I mean, look at Eric Gagne. Look at Mariano Rivera. They were converted starting pitchers. Joe Nathan's one that comes to mind. Some of your best closers are converted starting pitchers. The Houston Street wasn't. Craig Kimbrell wasn't. They've always been, closers like in college and in the minor leagues, groomed to be closers. But some of them are converted. Your best closers are converted starting pitchers that just, for whatever reason, were terrible starting, but they thrived in the 9th inning.
Well, I think I think they'll bring him back and put him in the starting rotation for at least another year, and then when they finally realize that this guy can't get it done as a starter, then maybe in year 3 they think about putting him in as a reliever. But right now I think they're saying to themselves, well, we just gave him $11-12 million a year. There's no way we could put him in the bullpen, paying him that much money.
Mark Burley could be a future Hall of Famer. I think he could win 300 games if he sticks around long enough. He's never thrown hard, so he's not going to have to deal with that as he gets older. He knows how to pitch. He knows how to throw both sides of the plate. He's never been on the disabled list. I believe he's around 180 wins, so he's got about 120 to go. CC Sabathia is about to get to 200.
Sabathia's 1 win away from 200. He's 32 years old and be 33 in July. But here's the thing about all these guys we've mentioned about getting 300. We all thought the same thing about Pedro Martinez. I for one thought he was a lock to get to 300 career wins, and then the injuries came, and after that he pretty much was done, and he didn't even get close to 300 career wins. So really, all boils down to, can Sabathia stay healthy, and can he do it for another about probably 8 to 10 years? If he can do that, then yeah, I think he has a good shot at winning 300 career games. He might be the only one that does get to 300 career wins when it's all said and done. But we know he probably will lose velocity of his fastball, so he's going to have to change his style of pitching and maybe even be a finesse pitcher when he gets in his mid to late 30s. But he's a smart guy. He probably will be able to do that. I've really been surprised with Roy Halladay. I thought that he would have a chance of getting 300 career wins because I thought he would be a type of guy to be able to reinvent himself because he's always had such great control. But right now, the last 2 years, it seems like he might be done as a starting pitcher, and that's just really a big surprise to me. But we'll have to wait and see if he can come back this year and what he can do. But I just don't think he can. He's going to be able to do it much longer.
The Phillies are saying he's looking good. They're expecting him to come back in August, September. Now the question is, of course, coming off major shoulder surgery, how is he going to? To me, he's going to have to reinvent himself. He's not going to be the same Roy Halladay. Now, I think he can. I think he's got the willpower and the work ethic to do it. Um, it's it's going to be pretty interesting. The thing about Mark Burley is he's never lit up the radar gun, even early in his career. Um, he hits 90 miles an hour. It's an accident, even in his younger minor league days. So he's always had to pitch to both sides of the plate because he's never been able to overpower anybody. So as long as he can stay healthy, I think he can get to 300 wins if he chooses, because he has indicated in the past that he may not stick around long enough to get to 300 wins. But I think he can if you know.
Well, you know, like I said, it just right now we're just kind of putting some pitchers out there that we think have an opportunity to get 300. But it's kind of like, you know, getting 3,000 career hits. It's a lot harder than you would think it would be, and it doesn't happen very often, as far as your 300 game winners and your 3,000 career hit guys.
23, I think, in Major League history have 300 or more career wins. I think it's like 31 that have something like that have over 3,000 hits.
Right. So there you go, right there. There's the stats. I mean, so that proves right there that, you know, it doesn't happen very often, and it's a longevity thing.
Milestones.
Right. With the it takes you're looking at least a good 20 years to be able to stay healthy. And that's what, and I think that a thing for me, it's going to be interesting to see. And then this is the far as the hits thing goes, is that this guy like, you know, Derek Jeter, can he come back and be the same guy he's always been from his injury? If so, can he play 5 or 6 more years and get closer to getting Pete Rose's all-time career hit record? I think he has a shot at it. I'm not saying he's going to do it, but I think he has a legitimate shot.
That will be interesting to see when he comes back. He's been delayed a couple times. To me, though, 38 for a shortstop is ancient. I think, though, hopefully he's not too prideful. He realizes he's 38 or 39. He needs to DH at least a couple times a week. To me, he needs to DH. He needs to be regular DH, and they just need to cut ties with A-Rod. Part of the problem with the Yankees is they don't have a minor league system hardly. They just use it to trade for all these rentals for a couple months or maybe a couple years. If I were the Yankees, I would just gut it. I'd rebuild. I'd totally get rid of all these players with these contracts. It's going to take some time and it's going to be painful. I know every year in New York it's World Series or bust, but except for 1 year, 2009, they've been busting every year since 2000. And of course, they won 4 World Series in 5 years, but that was when Jeter was young. That was because of the strength of the farm system. They built it up in the early 90s when they had all those lean teams. Of course, they were last place in 1990. They were terrible for a few years. And then they started mid-90s. They started 94, 95. Of course, 94 was a strike, no World Series, no postseason. But 95, they made the playoffs. 96, they won it all. Sadly, beat my Braves. We should have won that series. We're up 2-0, headed back to Atlanta, and we choked. David's got me there. But they won it 4 or 5 years in that time. And where they were weak, they went out and acquired like a Paul O'Neill, John Olerud, types like that. Mariano Rivera was a setup man until 98. You had John Wetland.
Well, yeah, I think that they are too prideful, and we know that the Yankees are not going to just gut everything, and go that route. That's just not who they are. And you know, I mean, if they did do that, George Steinbrenner Senior probably would be rolling over in his grave right now.
That's probably rolling over now the way they look.
Yeah.
A-Rod probably got him rolling over in his grave.
Oh yeah, I'm sure he does. But we have to remember he is the one that signed A-Rod to that huge contract. So
I wonder if realizing all this is what killed him.
Well,
He
hey,
died of regret from signing A-Rod. A-Rod killed him.
Hey, I wonder, but he probably he's in heaven right now, and he probably is hiring Billy Martin to be his new manager in heaven, and then he probably fired him again like the next day, and then rehired him back again.
True. Yeah, he did fire Billy Martin a lot. Had a quick temper. Of course, Billy Martin, if I'm not mistaken, had a pretty big temper too. He benched Reggie Jackson and caused a big ruckus there.
Oh yeah, that Billy Martin had a tremendous temper, and yeah, that no one will ever forget that big benching of Reggie Jackson. I might add on national TV. Uh, uh, who does something like that? I mean, you can never even think about something like that happening today. So
That's called
so
having balls.
yeah, Billy Martin had a lot of balls, a lot of guts, and obviously him and Reggie Jackson did not get along with each other too well, and never did really have that strong of a relationship.
I give Joe Torre a lot of credit. He had a lot to do with the Yankees being successful. He was able to take the pressure off between them and the front office. Um, it was one of the big things that helped because they, if I'm not mistaken, they went to the playoffs pretty much every year under Joe Torre. Um, they missed it the first year. They had Joe Girardi, but if I'm not mistaken, they've been every year since. They might make it this year. It's going to be interesting to see. I think they can make it. To me, though, they're overachieving. They need to add pieces. They're not going to, if they did make the playoffs, to me, they're not getting past the first round. They're probably a wild card team. They might not win the one-game playoff.
Uh, I think that that's probably close to being right. I mean, I think they probably can and will make the playoffs because I'm not going to bet against the Yankees. But I really don't see them going very far. Although I really don't think the Tigers are going back to the World Series either. So it could come down to them having a shot if they get to the playoffs because there's not I don't think there's really that very many strong teams out there in the American League, unless you want to say both the Red Sox are a strong team. Right now, they're playing great baseball. Will they continue that the second half of the season and going into the playoffs? We'll have to wait and see on that. I'm not really sure because they've taken me by surprise. Boston, that is, because I didn't see this coming this quick as far as kind of getting rid of all the high priced players like the Carl Crawfords and Josh Beckett's and all those guys, and now all of a sudden they're kind of just getting it done without.
I'm glad you brought that up. Of course, last August they traded several Carl Crawford, Josh Beckett, and some others to the Dodgers. Dodgers this year are in last place. Don Mattingly's probably going to get fired. The sad thing is, it's not Mattingly's fault. To me, Ned Coletti, the GM, ought to be fired. He's the one that brought all these pieces over, and of course, the Dodgers have tried to outspend the Yankees, and we see what happens. I'm not surprised that they're in last place. I'm not surprised it's blown up in their face. To me, whether or not they will, I think they need to try to be sellers at the deadline. But the problem is they're going to have to eat a lot of these contracts, let them run out. A lot of these players are not going to be able to move. Zach Greinke's done okay. He's not worth $147 million to me. Of course, he missed some time with the collarbone thing, getting in that fight. That just wasn't smart. I agree though with Mattingly. I know he was upset. Now, of course, Greinke came back quicker than we expected, but he thought I think it was Quentin, the person he hit that injured him, that he should have been suspended for as long as Greinke was out. But I mean, that's what happens. That's baseball. Greinke kind of put himself in that position, sadly enough. Of course, I think they spent too much money for him, but they spent too much money this offseason period. Brandon League wasn't the answer. 3-year contract. Come on, to me he's like a lower tier closer. He probably would be a great eighth inning guy, but to me he's not really a closer.
Well, yeah. I mean, the only really bright spot is for the Dodgers this year. besides Clayton Kershaw, and really the only smart move they made was going to get Piog. Is that it? The
Puig or Puig?
Puig.
Yeah.
Yeah, Puig, I believe it was from the international market, and he's I think he's lived up to his contract. I think it was about $7 million a year or somewhere thereabouts. 3-year contract or something. I think it was.
Ryu's done okay, but other than him and Kershaw, Billingsley's out with Tommy John surgery. Capuano's not done too well. Their bullpen's a mess. Their offense has been pretty much a mess. They've thrown good money after bad. The Red Sox were in last place last year for a reason, with a lot of these same players. Same thing in Toronto. Remember what happened at Miami last year? They sent them all to Toronto. What happens? Of course, a lot of it I think had to do with the owner. Now the owner and Ozzie Guillen were friends. I don't know if they still are after he fired him, but they tried to throw all this money away, and that blew up in their face. And the Marlins are going to lose 100 games this year. I think South Florida fans that were Marlin fans have pretty much lost faith in the owner from all the indications I've had. They're not going to show up at the stadium pretty much until he sells the team, or they may have to move it maybe to Vegas or Charlotte or somewhere like that. I just don't see it working out in South Florida with that owner, which that could be another debate, the worst owners in sports. But the Clippers, with Donald Sterling, have done all right this year. But that's another deal.
Well, yeah. I'll still saying on baseball. One team I want to say I want to talk about them in great detail, but I will just say that Terry Francona has done a really good job with the Cleveland Indians this year, and everyone wants to talk about the Tigers have been winning the division. I think pretty much for the whole season, but still the Indians are in second place, only 2 games back, and it seems like the Tigers are a lot more games ahead of the Indians than just 2 games, but they're not, and I think the Tigers will still be the team to beat in the division. But I mean, if Cleveland can keep this close the second half of the season, I wouldn't count them out.
The problem is though, like the NL East, like the NL West, the AL Central is a weak division. I think you're going to have to win that division to get in the playoffs. I would not be surprised if 3 playoff teams come out of the East. Now, or you'll have one in the East and one in the West. The Rangers and the A's, to me, are going to go down to the wire. They both look like outstanding teams this year. Seattle's a little better, but they're still a long way away. LA, they need to just gut that team and rebuild it. Whether or not they do, some people think Mike Scioscia's job's on the line. Problem is, Mike Scioscia signed through 2019, so he's probably not going anywhere.
No.
They'll probably go after the GM, Jerry Dipoto. Maybe that's a smart move. Maybe that's not. It's hard to tell. I think there needs to be some change at the Big A. They've not done well the last couple of years since K-Rod left. He's a setup man. In Milwaukee now, he just got his 300 save the other day. Congratulations to him. I think he could move at the deadline. Milwaukee's a last place team or next to last place team. Them and the Cubs are going to come down to last place in NL Central this year.
Well, I've heard that Gallardo is probably going to be moved from Milwaukee, their starting pitcher.
Kyle Loesch could possibly be traded. Jim Henderson, the closer, could be traded.
I don't think Cal Loesch will be traded. I think because he's done pretty good for them this year.
I think they'll trade him for prospects.
He's 36 years old, though. I don't think you'll get a whole lot of prospects for that old. Plus, somebody who has had injuries in the past.
Right, but with starting pitching at a premium this year and him going 16-3 last year, of course, he's not been nowhere near that this year, but he's been respectable.
Because he's an inconsistent pitcher.
Right.
That's what he does. He's year to year. You can't tell what he's going to do. I wonder if he's juicing once again. Is Bartolo Colon, because I believe he has 8 wins now for the season. He just won again.
I think he's got 10 or I thought I saw 10 or 11.
No, I think he's
maybe
got
it's 8, but he's still doing well. Of course, he got busted for steroids last year.
Right, and I believe he beat St. Louis his last game. So I think Bartolo Colon needs a random drug test right now, and there's a good chance that steroids would come back positive with him.
And Ryan Braun, they're saying, could be out until after the All Star break. Um, we'll be interested to see how that test goes, how this steroids investigation goes. He could get 100 games. A Rod could get 100 games. Some others are going to get 50. That may not come out. I wouldn't be surprised if that didn't come out to the off season. It could come out during the season, but I think it would be too much. I think they would wait because that would be too much of a distraction because of the appeals and all that. So they could do that in the off season.
Well, I think that this thing could come out this year actually. It, it I, but it is already past the deadline I think from when it was supposed to come out. I thought it was supposed to come out like a week or two ago. So Bud City probably has a plan, I'm sure, of trying to draw this out as long as he can because he doesn't want it to come out. To me, one of the worst commissioners in all sports, next to David Stern. Both of these guys are probably just one. I don't know which one's the worst, but that's probably another topic for another day. Thank God David Stern is leaving sometime at the end of next year, I believe it is. But yeah, Bud Selig has not gotten too many things right, other than maybe the interleague play, and you can make an argument that is become a disaster because now they're playing too many games against the American League, and the World Series is not a whole lot to look forward to. And now, since it is so many games, almost they're almost playing now every week. It seems like so. That's not good. I don't think. But
there's an interleague series going on all the time.
Right, and so since that's going on so much, it takes away from the World Series, I don't like it, and I was originally a big fan of interleague play when they first got started, and they just played each other maybe 40 games a year, something like that.
I think it was 15 games a year. It's 22 now, I think, a year. But there's the way they were doing it in the past. The interleague series were just going on during when they were doing it. It was all interleague except for one NL series because there were more teams. Now it's an even number, 15 and 15. I think they ought to add two more. It's going to be hard to do with economics, but to me they need to add two more leagues, or not two more leagues, but one more team in each league. 32 teams. That way you can have 16 and 16. That way you don't have to have interleague games going on all the time. Still have an even number. Believe it or not, we've been off for over an hour.
Yeah, it's a long time. We didn't expect to go on that long, but hey, it is what it is. One last thing I want to say, and that's the two wild cards. I'm not exactly in favor of that extra wild card. I think it was good enough just to have that one wild card. And that was working. Most people liked it. So why do you change that up and go to that extra wild card?
More playoff rounds, more money is what a lot of people think. There's actually fewer rounds in baseball playoffs than there are in any other sport. The NFL has 12 teams that make the playoffs. The NBA and the NHL have 16. To me, 16 is too many. 12 to me is a pretty good number. The problem with 16 is you have more teams in the NHL and the NBA that make the playoffs than don't. So you have teams with losing records in the playoffs. I'm not a fan of that at all. For one thing, home field advantage in baseball is not what it is. No matter how hard you try, it is not the same as it is in the NBA, particularly the NBA, or the NFL also.
Yeah, NBA has got is probably you have the advantage more than any other sport as far as the home field it goes. Hockey is not really that big of an advantage as far as the home court goes there. But football, to me, I don't think I don't think that it's really that much of an advantage the home field. Because I remember my Patriots played in a playoff game like it was 2 or 3 years ago against the New York Jets, and during the regular season they had blown the New York Jets out by like 30 or 40 points, and then they play them in the playoffs at New England, and what happens? They lose to the Jets. So I say, yeah, basketball is definitely number one, and I think it's not even close to being the same as far as how important home court advantage is uh, in basketball versus the baseball and football. To me, that's what the each team does. That's why they fight. That's what they fight for in the regular season is to have that home court advantage during the playoffs and all the way to the title game because they know that if they have the home court advantage, there's a good chance that they can get to that title game and then ultimately win that title game. It's really helped Miami out a whole lot the last couple of years is having that home court advantage.
Helped them a lot this year. Even though in the NBA Finals each team lost a home game, the NBA home field advantage is bigger probably in the NBA more so than any other sport. Now, why that is, I'm not sure if it's the noise or the way the officiating is. Some people complain it's the refs, which is an interesting topic. I mean, that could be almost a whole show probably on the refs.
Well, yeah, the referees pretty much in not just basketball but baseball, especially the last couple of years, the umpires have just been horrible. And I remember just the playoffs last year with the infield fly rule between Atlanta and St. Louis game. That was a controversial.
Thanks for reminding me.
Hey, I'm just making an example.
Oh, I know.
But that's why a lot of people are saying that more instant replay needs to be added into baseball because the umpires continue to get a lot of calls wrong during crucial time, especially in the playoffs. I mean, it's one thing to get a call wrong in the regular season, but I mean, when you do it in the playoffs, that's just that's unacceptable. You can't allow that to happen. So I'm starting to be one of the ones that's kind of really in favor of adding more instant replay. Whether it's how do you go about that? Maybe you have a kind of challenge like the football has with the coaches. They maybe give the managers like 2 challenges, and they think they get called the wrong call. They can have a challenge there. So it's kind of up for debate how you go about it, but I think baseball is going to have to expand instant replay when it's all said and done. It might take a couple of years to get this thing put in place, but I see it happening.
Anything else you want to talk about tonight?
Well, I think that we've gone way over the limit that we thought that we planned on doing. So I think that's going to be a good show for tonight, and we'll plan on being back next week.
Don't forget, post your comments on YouTube. There's a comment area. Also, you can email us at sportsanimals@gmail.com. I'm Justin.
And I'm David.
We'll see you next time.